Hi, this is Dr. Willie Jolley, and I want to welcome you to the new and improved Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast. After many years of interviewing the best and brightest thought leaders around the world on my SiriusXM show, I am excited to now have those interviews available to people around the globe on this podcast. So many people would write us and say, I love what I've been hearing about your interviews with these great people. Where can I access them? I live in this country or that country, or I don't have access to that technology. How can I get the information? Well, I'm so excited now that we are able to offer the information and the interviews free on this podcast. So we want you to sit back and enjoy this message and let me know how you like them. And then do me a favor. If you like them, send a review, write a review and post it. And if you like it, hit like on here and share it and tell everybody you know about it, and then subscribe to this podcast so you'll get the alerts when we post a new interview episode. Thank you for listening and enjoy the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast.
Named one of the outstanding 5 speakers in the world.
Inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame.
Award-winning singer.
Best-selling author.
And now, here's Willie Jolley.
Well, folks, it's a great day, great day. Welcome to the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast from around the country, around the world. I want to welcome you. How do you go from a student in high school who is at the bottom of the graduating class to become a world-class serial entrepreneur, multimillionaire, and a person who is also a philanthropist, who has given millions of dollars and helps others? How do you do it? And how do you create wealth? By understanding what wealth is. My guest is one of the people I feature in my new book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better, Eric Broyles. And he's going to talk to you about how he did it and how you can do it. Well, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, I can't refuse it. I did not seek it. I did not choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but our eternities are wrapped up in it. So I'm grateful for this minute, this moment, this opportunity to be on with each and every one of you, wherever you are listening or watching around the world, whether you are on SiriusXM, whether you're on the podcast, or whether you're on a new television network that we're launching soon. Whatever way you get this, we want to be grateful for you here. You know, I take a moment at the beginning of every show to thank you, and then I thank God. I give God glory for life and strength and health. I know everybody doesn't believe like I believe, but I am telling you, I am grateful. And I found that there was a study done that said those who have a gratitude live longer. They live longer. There's something about gratitude, and I give God glory, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And then I take a moment to thank our sponsor, Truist Bank. 2 great banks decided to stop fighting against each other and start working together with each other. And they've built a new bank called Truist. BB&T and SunTrust said, we're going to become a new bank with a new way of doing business. We're going to build this on a simple premise: care. And when you start with care, you build a different kind of bank. Truist Bank. Well, my special guest today is a friend. I'm going to be transparent. He's a friend, a dear friend of mine, and someone I have great respect and admiration for. When I have a financial problem or situation or question, I often will just ring him and say, hey, you know, what do you think about this? And, you know, the Bible teaches us there's safety in a multitude of counselors. So before I make any major decisions with money, I call my counselors. I call a bunch of them and see what they say. And then I can make a decision once I get that information. So that's one of the things I've done with Eric Broyles. Eric Broyles has led a life that many would be amazed at. He started as a disengaged student near the bottom of his graduating class at Hamilton's Baden High School in Hamilton, Ohio, to become a successful corporate attorney, Well, he went on from there to University of Cincinnati and then went to University of Virginia Law School, where he graduated top of his class. By the way, he's also now on the board of trustees for University of Virginia Law School, or he's actively involved there. He went on to become a successful corporate attorney, then got involved with AOL and worked with them, and then became a CEO of an international investment research firm. But then he went on to become a serial entrepreneur. He worked with Skadden Arps. He went with AOL and then Time Warner. And then he jumped to Gerson Lehman Group. He built that into a valuation of $1 billion. He's a patent holder of many tech innovations. He's a published author, member of the University of Cincinnati Board of Trustees. He gave $1 million to the college. That was the largest gift ever given to the college. And he's my friend. I've given you bits and pieces, but he's my friend. He came from Hamilton, Ohio, and now he is global. My dear friend, Eric Broyles. Welcome, Eric Broyles.
Thank you, Dr. Jolley. Good to be with you.
Man, so I gave him a thumbnail sketch. How did this dude, I want you to give a quick synopsis of how this dude, who by the way, got arrested when he was a teenager. Am I right?
No, 10-year-old.
A 10-year-old.
I was 10.
So, how do you go from being arrested at 10, being an underperformer in high school, falling out with your dad somewhere because you had all the answers in your mind, and yet become this massive success? Give us a little bit of insight into your story, please.
Yeah, no, happy to do that. So I'll start with a scripture you'll be familiar with, and that is, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen.
Right.
And so for me, my journey has certainly been one that has been rooted in faith and in belief. I first believe in God, belief in my Savior, Jesus, and in belief that I could have the abundant life that his word promised us. And so for me, working through all of those challenges, the neighborhood I grew up in, my poor performance, all the way through, high school, was really about what did I see for myself in the future? And that's about vision, a key thing that I focus on. And like, what did I see for myself? And once I got really keen on focusing on my vision, then the next part was just an attitude adjustment. And I'm sitting in my home office right now, and I'm looking, I have a pen up on my one of the shelves, and it just has the word attitude. And it was a little gold pen. It's not gold anymore. It's faded. But I used to, I paid my way through college at University of Cincinnati selling garage doors. And so I would go to class, and I had on not the stylish, fancy clothes, but I did wear a tie every day. And that tie was pinned down with my pen that said attitude.
Wow.
And I wore that pen every day of all 5 years it took me to get through University of Cincinnati. And to remind myself as I went out on my sales calls, and I'd look down at the pen and it said attitude.
Let's talk about that before we get into all your successes. Let's talk about that, going to University of Cincinnati and having to pay your way through school and having to work selling garage doors. Am I correct?
Yes.
And during the day, and then going to so well, you had a schedule, and then you had to take a secondary job because you weren't effective initially selling those garage doors. Tell us your schedule.
Yeah, so just during my first year of college, and as you said, I graduated bottom of my class from high school, and there were a lot of things going on in my community. I experienced a lot of racism. I went to a private high school, experienced a lot of racism, so I just kind of disengaged. And then there were a lot of things going on a macro level in the community, factories closing down, steel plants closing, auto plants closing. So I was impacted in a number of ways, just my environment, and then what was going on in my school, and some things going on in my home. But ultimately, when due to a dispute with my dad and let's say my bad attitude, I left the home after I graduated and set out on my own. And I got into the University of Cincinnati's. It's a community campus for University of Cincinnati called Blue Ash campus. And to be clear, my gift was the largest gift to Blue Ash, not to the University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
But I started there, and that gave me a chance to have remediation where I could, to remediate before I went to the main campus of UC 2 years after I got my associate's degree. But
so Blue Ash was kind of like a community college okay, got it. Go ahead.
For University of Cincinnati, though. It was University of Cincinnati specific. And so to get a look, I had this vision, right? I said, have a vision. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to be successful. I thought that I had the capacity to even be a good student. And I know I needed to be a good student to become a lawyer. So I buckled down. I went to class from 8 until 11 in the morning. I went and sold garage doors from 11:30 or so until it got dark because you can't measure outside with your tape measure in the dark. Right. And then I went to the library and I stayed at the library until it closed. And then after the library closed, I would go down the street to my very bad one-room apartment that, was $190 a month, unlimited supply of roaches and gunshots outdoors. I'd go to my apartment, get 2 to 3 hours of sleep, and then I was a janitor at a gas station overnight from 3 a.m. till 7, which gave me just enough time to go get changed, and then go to my first class. And I did that for 1 year. Wow. It was brutal. And it's the reason that I've given more than 7-figure, but it's the reason I did the initial 7-figure gift to UC is University of Cincinnati is I didn't want any student who is working to pay their way through school to have such a brutal schedule. So I filled the gap. Wow. You work in a job and you can only pay, a certain portion of my endowment closes the gap for a select number of students, about 10 students a year. Been doing that for over a decade now. And so I have many scholars that have gone through my program, and it's been a great honor to be able to give back in that way.
Wow. You mentioned you came from a industrial area, a steel city, car manufacturing and so forth. Let's talk about your father. Your father worked in one of those plants, did he not? Give us your father's name, please. I want to speak his name because I want people to memorize.
Yep. My dad is Howard Broyles Sr. There's a junior, my big brother, but Howard Broyles Sr., who grew up in Hamilton, served in the Army, and then got a job at Armco Steel, which is now called AK Steel, but Armco Steel, which is in Middletown, Ohio. It's actually the same steel plant that our current vice president, J.D. Vance, his grandfather worked at that plant as well.
Wow.
If you read his book, Hillbilly Elegy, that's the plant my dad spent 35 plus years working there, and in fact became plant foreman his last 15 years as an employee there.
Wow.
So my dad grew up, in a tough spot, large family, didn't have a lot of segregated community. Hamilton was a segregated community as he grew up. But my father, what he did have was he had mindset. And he had some natural intellectual abilities. They weren't sort of harnessed or developed in educational institutions, but he was very smart. And that old saying, how when you're young, you think your parents are dumb. And as you get older, they get smarter. Right. And, as I'm in my mid 50s, my dad seems like a genius to me. And I'm, in terms of.
We're going to talk about a couple lessons specifically that you've talked about in our group, the Ham Hock group, about your dad, about delayed gratification, and about taking full advantage of employee stock opportunities, because he taught you some things that you used to create long-term success and wealth, as well as he gave you some integrity issues that you have had to hold to. So we're going to come right back in a short while, folks. We're going to take a quick break for commercials, but we'll be right back because you got to hear some of these stories. I want you to take your pad, your pen, your pencil, your iPhone, your iPad, whatever you take notes on. We're going to give you some points to help you win, grow your wealth, and grow your success. for long term. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast. And for sure, the best is yet to come. We'll be right back.
You can call on me
When you need me,
call me. You can call on me.
call me.
You can.
I'm so excited about the response to my new book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better. So many have said that the book has had a profound impact on their thinking. I wrote the book to teach others what I have been taught over the last 20 years, interviewing billionaire after billionaire. And most of those billionaires started with nothing. I want to offer you some of the most powerful chapters in the book as a gift. Go to richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com to read the free chapters so you can get on with growing your wealth. Get the free chapters at richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com. Hey, this is Dr. Willie Jolley, and support for the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast comes from Truist Bank. When you work with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. When you become a homeowner, your future starts to feel different. That's power, knowing you could be creating generational wealth to pass down. Truist believes that a path to home ownership exists for you. I hear people say, well, I don't see how I could ever own a home. Truist has programs that could help you buy a home with a lower down payment than you might expect. And their professional guidance helps you build belief that home ownership is within reach. Connect with a Truist teammate to learn about options that are available to you. They will listen to your goals and follow through. Reach them by calling 855-562-1579. Do this for your family and your legacy. That number is 855-562-1579 or visit truist.com/homebuyer. That's truist.com/homebuyer. Certain programs and geographic restrictions may apply. Contact a loan officer for details. Truist Bank is an equal housing lender. And we're back. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast. And I'm so excited that you all are here. My special guest, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist. And when serial, I mean multiple organizations and companies that he owns. And he started at the bottom of his high school class. He put himself through undergrad by selling garage door openers and working as a janitor in a gas station. And he made it through there and went on to University of Virginia law school. So I'm going to get to a couple things. Before I do that, let me make sure I give this. I don't want to forget it. You worked for that garage door opening company, right?
Garage door company, yes. Huh?
Yeah, garage door. Am I right that you later went and bought that company years later?
I did. So I started sweeping the warehouse in Salem. Salem Door was a company in Cincinnati, supplied a lot of the home builders in Southwest Ohio, Indiana, and Northern Kentucky. I started sweeping the floors there as a 15-year-old. I was trying to get money to buy a car once I turned 16. And when I got ready to graduate college, I knew I couldn't work in the warehouse and go to school at the same time. So I talked to the owner about becoming a salesman at his company. He said, you can do it. You have to do it on straight commission, though. I won't let you take leads that I generate from advertising because I have people here who pay for families and you're just a young kid trying to do this. If you're going to do it, go make it. And so that's why I worked the job as a janitor, because I was straight commission and I didn't always get a commission check each week. So I needed to sustain myself to pay for gas and beanie weenies and ramen noodles during the week. And so that's what I did. But yeah, my third year out of law school, I was a young associate at Skadden Arps. That owner of that company had a heart attack, and I went to see him and asked him, what can I do to help you? And he said, buy my company. And so a year later, I acquired the company. I did a leverage buyout. I brought in a gentleman who was like a kind of a mentor to me in that garage door company. I made him a 20% owner and gave him a salary, 20% equity. And he ran the day-to-day, and I owned that company for 10 years. We tripled the size of it. And we sold it to a national company, Overhead Door, and ultimately Wayne Dalton Door, big national company, owns it now.
Wow. Great story. Okay, let's go back to your father. Your father works in the steel factory. one thing he did was when others were buying brand new cars, he chose not to. Talk about that.
Yep, my father never had a new car. My father started working at Armco Steel.
Hold on, let me stop. I gotta correct that. Your father never had a new car till you bought him one years later.
Yeah,
but he refused
I should be clear.
Yeah.
My father's first new car I bought for him again, probably I was a young third year associate at Skadden Arps. I took one of my bonuses and bought my dad his first ever new car. And I told him, I said, I actually want to see it come off the truck because my dad's never had a new car. And I bought him a car. And what I saw in my dad, a lot of the guys in my neighborhood, their dads had nice cars. They had Cadillacs and deuce and a quarter.
Deuce and a quarter. Some youngins don't know what a deuce and a quarter. A deuce and a quarter. That's right. Go ahead.
All right. So they have these fancy cars, and my dad always had junkers, right? And I remember our neighbor, he had a brand new Fleetwood Cadillac, and one other neighbor had a Coupe de Ville Cadillac. And these guys, they worked in steel plants and things like that, and car for GM. And Ford all had plants in that area, Southwest Ohio. And I just remember saying, Dad, why do we have to be in junky cars? Why don't we? He said, because I invest in you, boy. So I invest in you, and I don't care about what these people say about me. I save. And what I didn't know about my dad at that time was I later learned that my dad was living on his income from the early 60s until he retired.
Wow.
So let's say he started, I don't know, making $15,000 a year and ended up making 90,000 his last year. He was still living on about 18 to 20,000 a year. The rest was being invested.
Wow. Let's talk about that investment from your father, because the plant, and I know part of this story because I've heard it and it's so profound. The plant came up with this new thing called employee stock. Okay, buyback options, whatever. Many of the folks thought it was crazy, but your father said, no, that's a good idea. Talk about that.
Yeah, he just took you back then. Many companies have employee stock purchase plans where you can buy stock, either buy it at a discount. You're not necessarily I got stock options when I went to AOL, though, right? I got a big stock options pool. But back then you could buy employee stock sometimes at a discount, maybe 10% of its trading for a period. My father did that all 35 or 36 years of his time at the steel company, but he invested in other things as well. He wasn't a prolific investor, but if he saw the company, if it was like a good brand and he understood the kind of what they did, like a Procter and Gamble or a General Motors, he kind of understood that he would invest in companies like that. And I just tell the story simply. My father, unfortunately, died young. He contracted mesothelioma working in that plant.
Yep.
So actually died in his late 50s. But my mother lived for 15 years after my father was gone, and off of his savings.
Wow.
Right. So until my mother died, but I tried to help her, but my mother invested in a couple of my deals.
Wow.
To put it in perspective.
Wow. I love when you would say that when your father would do this, making this investment in stocks for the company, and his coworkers would think he was crazy or think he was stupid. They didn't see they were doing other things. But I remember you telling me a story one time about how one of the neighbors worked in a factory.
Yeah.
Bought a new Cadillac.
Yeah.
You know the story. Go ahead. You know the story.
So my sisters, one of her close friends in high school, I remember my sister graduated about 4 or 5 years ahead of me. So I was younger, still in middle school. And I remember sitting in the kitchen one day and my mother asked this young girl, hey, where are you going to college? My sister Renee's going to go to Miami University. Where are you going to college? And she said, well, unfortunately, my dad bought a new Lincoln Town car, so I don't have money to go to college. And here's what kind of helped. This is the only thing I remember about that. My father clenched up and said, that's stupid blankety blank. Right. And he was in the kitchen and he gritted his teeth and he pounded. It made him angry that
Yes.
this guy had bought a Lincoln, and he said, "That's stupid MF," right? Is
Yep.
all I remember.
Yep.
And so that taught me something about, okay, priorities, right?
Yes.
And the fact that my father was thinking, okay, here he's driving around in this fancy car, but his daughter doesn't have an education. My sister, very successful as
Yes.
well, by the way, prolific investor, wealthy, all of that. But I saw his reaction, and that left a mark, indelible mark on me. How angry I'd seen him get angry, but not the depth of his anger at that told me that there was something really wrong with that.
Right. Okay, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, let's talk about being willing to delay gratification, because that's what your father did, and he was willing to put priorities. You learned that too, and so when you came out of college and went on to law school, got a good job, you had a choice. You could buy a new car, or keep driving your hoopty and invest some of it. Well, talk about that.
Look, so if, my first year out of law school, I had a 6-figure salary. My dad, I don't think ever made 6 figures, although he became a millionaire before, by the time he died, he was a millionaire, but he never had a 6-figure income. And so for me, I got a simple car. I got a Toyota Camry and I kept that. And in fact, I actually bought a car in 2005 that one of my sisters drives to this day, the one whose friend's father bought the Lincoln. She drives that car to this day. The car I brought, it's 21 years old, got 300,000 miles. Now, I've gone out and purchased fancy cars. I've probably spent $1 million on cars. Over a period of time. But here's where I don't drive them much, right?
Right.
I drive around in I'll drive around in a Ford Explorer or another truck that I have. I don't necessarily pull out the Range Rover or the convertible AMG or whatever car is sitting in the garage. It's just not that important to me. And then also, this is more of a practical thing. I thought most people don't see me, the car I pull up in, when I'm going to wherever I'm going, unless, if you think about it.
Right.
Unless you're going to go to a club and pull up right in front of the club or the restaurant, most people don't see you anyway. So who are you buying it for?
Right. Okay. Let's talk about margin, because that's one of the big points that you talk about that you've taught me about margin. What is margin?
Well, margin in its simplest sense is space and extra.
Yes.
Right. So I think about margin as extra, right? And what space does, you've heard people say, I got more month than I do pay. Was money? Is that?
I got more month than money. Right.
I got more month than money. Right. Margin inverts that, where you have more money than you do month. Right.
Yes.
And so margin gives you space. And when you have space, you're not forced into making erratic decisions, irrational decisions when you have space, right? And so you can create margin in a number of ways. One is to live below your means. Like I have a close friend. He's very successful as well. I was at his summer house a few months ago, and we were sitting around talking. We couldn't believe, both from are in the same area. And, he's probably worth $25-30 million. And we were sitting around talking, like, just not believing. But here's the thing he and I compete on, to the extent we have any competitive streak, is who's kind of living on the least amount of money that they make. Right.
Wow.
So I tell him, I live very well, but I live on about 10 cents of every dollar I make.
Wow. Hold that thought. That's a great place to take a break. Folks, we're going to take a break for station identification. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way Show. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Dr. Willie Jolley, and I got an email from a gentleman in Australia who shared how he had been struggling in his business, and he bought some of my books and audios, and how it had a profound impact on his business, and he went from worst to first in his company. I shared with him how much I appreciated his note, but I told him those books, those audios, those videos were not just something that I just thought up one day and started to write. They were born out of my experiences, out of the challenges of overcoming the problems and the difficulties and how I was able to do it. And I shared with him that others have sent similar messages and that these resources work. I want to encourage you and invite you to go to my store. Go to wjspeaks.com/shop. wjspeaks.com/shop. Get some of the books. It only takes a minute to change your life. Or a setback is a setup for a comeback. Or turn setbacks into greenbacks. Or chicken soup for the soul. Or an attitude of excellence. Or the book I wrote with my wife after 34 years of being married and not having an argument in over 30 years. We wrote a book called Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last. And now it is saving marriages all over the globe. Go to the store, get some of the audios, the videos, the books, the resources to help you have greater personal and professional success. This is Dr. Willie Jolley. Make this a great day on purpose. And we're back. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way Show and Podcast. I want you all to go to winwithwillie.com, winwithwillie.com for resources to help you win. I got lots of resources there. Some are free, some are a small investment, but go to winwithwillie.com, look around the different sites, to the things that can help you. And then I want to take a moment to thank our friends at Truist Bank. Truist is a great leader in banking, but what I love most about them, they show up with an unwavering care. What does that mean? Well, it means that they can help you identify your financial goals, and then they can use their deep industry knowledge and awesome banking tools to help you reach them, like Money and Mindset, which is a podcast and a site and a article repository where you get tips and tools to help you along your financial journey. Go check it out today at truist.com/money and mindset. Truist.com/money and mindset. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. My special guest is serial entrepreneur. He was an attorney, a corporate attorney, but he became an entrepreneur. And let me tell you about what his entrepreneurial exploits have. He talked about the fact that he bought the garage door company he used to work for, and he kept it, sold it. I call this guy a modern day Reginald Lewis. He does buyouts. He does acquisitions. He's built a Expert Connect. He's had a vitamin company. He has a biotech company. He has also hotels. I mean, this gentleman is doing all sorts of things, but he has many streams of income, and it comes from one, his willingness to follow his father's lead of investing, living below your means and investing. And Eric Broyles is his name. And he's done that. And in my book, he's in my new book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better. I want everybody to go to richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com, richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com. Get copies of this book. You'll read the whole story about Eric Broyles and how in his youthfulness, he started investing. And he's part of the Hamhart Group. And he started investing in lieu of buying a new car. Okay, let's go back to that story. You got the Camry. Now you can buy whatever car you want because your stock is buying the car. Your dividends are buying the car. But initially, you could have bought that car, a new car with that bonus or whatever. You bought your dad a car to bless him. Thank God, because he didn't live long thereafter. But you did not do that for yourself. And you took your margin, that space, and you invested it. And you started that years ago. Am I right?
First year out of law school, I started back then. A popular thing was called DRIPs, dividend reinvestment plans. And what I learned, and I didn't perceive this initially, but about 10 years in, I realized, well, wait a minute, my Procter & Gamble, my Exxon, I use all their products and they give me money every quarter. And so by the time I got into my mid 40s, my investing strategy put me in a scenario where I got paid for everything that I did. So, for example, I go into Starbucks every day. Starbucks pays me about $20 per coffee, per latte that I get. So I go in, I order my latte, I give them $5. Every 90 days, they send me a dividend check. And it far away, and I can't drink enough lattes, right, to match. And the same with the gas. I go fill up my Range Rover, and the Exxon pays me to fill up my Range Rover.
Wow.
My when I had a mortgage, I would pay the bank, and then they give me part of that money back every 90 days because at 25 and 20, I started doing dividend reinvestment plans. So start off $100, then 500, then 1,000, then more, many thousands a month. But then the dividends, then you get what Einstein called the greatest phenomenon, compounding interest.
Yes.
And at some point, it's like a snowball. And it's the weirdest thing. You can't, you have weeks like this week where you look at the market. Like I checked a couple of my accounts this morning, and it's mind boggling to me to see the snowball effect of and most of my assets are not in publicly traded equities, right? Wow. Most of my assets are in businesses, in real estate, shopping malls, hotels, things like that. And so, but to see a swing because you have a robust market of more money maybe than my dad made in his whole career.
Wow.
In 1 week. Wow. Right. And so that's the benefit of delayed gratification. I did not get I bought my first quote unquote fancy car. I probably worked almost 15. And I think the first year I made over $1 million was the first time I bought a new car. But I was making many hundreds of thousands for a decade before, and I never had a nice car. I had okay cars, a Camry or a truck or whatever, but I didn't buy my first nice car until I made over $1 million in 1 year.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about debt. So we got a lot of people who right now who are in debt and living a high life. Okay, they got a nice house, they got a nice car, but they're up to their eyeballs in debt. Let's talk about debt and getting smart about debt, please.
Yeah, I would caution people I'd say use debt wisely. There can be positive debt, particularly in the business context of taking on debt if you're using it to help grow your business. But the worst debt you can have is credit card debt because it's so expensive, right? So I'd encourage you to really focus on chipping away at your debt load because let's say, for example, you're paying 25% interest on a credit card. Well, that could be, it's $200 maybe a month, depending on your balance that is coming out of your pocket. It's taken away margin again. And so, but debt, I'd be careful with. Mortgage debt is typically a good debt to have, and a lower interest rate. Credit card debt, very bad. And then if you have a small business, there are lines of credit, things like that will help grow your business. You have to make sure you're growing at a rate that justifies the interest expense on the debt. But generally speaking, stay clear of certainly high interest debt and credit card debt.
Let me read this quote on page 149 from Eric Broyles. My book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better, page 149. For those who have the book, you can read along. And if you don't have the book, go get it. He says, one more thing that Eric stresses is always be mindful of debt. Eric shares that there is bad debt and that is acceptable. He didn't say good debt. He said acceptable debt. That's a difference. The key is whether it is bad or acceptable. The key to whether it's bad or acceptable depends on whether the debt is for an item that appreciates or depreciates. If the debt finances something that appreciates, meaning it goes up in value, then it is acceptable. On the other hand, if the item you bought with debt depreciates, meaning it goes down in value, that is bad debt. Eric reminds us to always be conscious of debt and use it wisely. I say it like this: you should use debt and not let debt use you. Okay. And in interest, he who understands it gets it. He who doesn't understand it pays it. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and interest takes up your margin. So margin, I called it space, and I called it extra. But in that space is actually freedom, right? If you think about physical space, and I'm giving you these analogies, but there's freedom of movement in physical space, right?
Yep.
Financial space, there's freedom of movement. I'll give you an example. I had an opportunity. I got a professor at Harvard wanted me to take out an asset, intellectual property, patented cancer product. And it was a complex project. It's going to take a lot of money. And I went to a couple of my partners in the business that I'm a partner in that pays me the greatest income. And they're like, yeah, you can do it. We'll invest with you, but we're not going to pay you, $1.x million a year to go run some other company. So we're going to take your salary. You still have your equity. You still get your K1 distributions, but we're not going to pay you a base salary of, $1 million, whatever. So I had to give that up to pursue something that was important to me, because this cancer technology has the potential, delivery technology, to eradicate the words that I heard from my poor dad when I took him to a top cancer center, and they said, hey, there's nothing we can do. And so I decided to take this mission on, because this innovation targets metastatic cancer, right? People who hear the words, there's nothing you can do. Well, if I didn't have the margin in my space, so I've worked for this cancer company now for 4 years, 0 W-2 income, and gave up 1.3 or 4, whatever my partners were paying me in my one venture in income, right? But so that's been, as you multiply that by 4, right? So there's lost income, and I've invested 7 figures of my capital into the cancer company. So I've done that because of margin, right? Right. I was able to do that. Nobody, like my little niece who's sitting in the next room, her private high school tuition still needed to be paid that I committed to. I had, my own kid in school, like all of these expenses, they didn't go away because I decided to go tackle this, try to tackle this very risky adventure. But what I did was I created space for myself to try to do something that was more meaningful to me in that instance. And so that's an example of margin, being able to say, okay, I won't get 1.4 million or 1.3 million in guaranteed income, but I have a chance to change the lives of cancer patients, and more importantly, their family, because my health was impacted when I watched my dad die over a year, right? So I think about it from that perspective. And so that's an example of margin.
One more thing about this, I want to put 2 things that came to mind. One, that's not the only niece or nephew that you're paying their tuition. Okay, that's okay. There's all of them are being paid by you. That's one. Second, you understand the impact of delayed gratification and long-term strategy, because you understand that this cancer breakthrough is going to be $1 billion+ return. And so it's going to be in the billions. And so that's powerfully important, because you're not a jackrabbit, as I like to call it. You're not running after each little thing. You're not, and I have been in the room when he's evaluated an investor or a person coming to get an investment, and he goes through a series of questions that are so pointed and so strategic that the investor has to say, you know what? I need to go home and do my homework, and it's so profound. Well, look, we're going to take another break, but we are part of a group called the Ham Hock Group. Men who are successful, who come and share. And this book, a lot of my new book is built on the Ham Hock Group and the lessons I've learned and people I've learned that changed my thinking about just trying to get rich to thinking about creating wealth. When we come back, I'm gonna let Eric loose. I'm gonna let him loose on the lessons he can share with you that we've learned or he learned over the years at the Ham Hock Group. This is going to be life-changing. Take out your pad, your pen, your pencil paper, because it's going to be life-changing. Here we go. We'll be right back. This is Dr. Willie Jolley of the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way Show, and for sure, the best is yet to come. We'll be right back.
Motivated, highly motivated, gonna take it to the top. Motivated, highly motivated, motivated, I'm never gonna stop. I had a job I really hated. It made me sick, but it got me motivated. I knew that this was not where I was meant to be. I didn't want to stay, but I was too afraid to leave. Then one day I got my check, there was almost nothing there. I went to the cross, he laughed and said he didn't care. My kids were at home hungry, I was about to lose my home. That's when I decided I had to make it on my own. Said I, gonna take it to the top. I said oh yeah, said I'm never gonna stop.
Hey, this is Dr. Willie Jolley, here to thank Truist Bank for their sponsorship of the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast. Now, if you're a longtime Wealthy Ways listener, you know I believe that mindset is the key to success, and so does Truist. That's why they've created their incredible resource, Money and Mindset. It's full of tips to help you with your finances and help you with your well-being. You can get articles, quizzes, calculators, and hey, even more podcast information that will bless you, all for free and for anyone to use. Check it out today at truist.com/money and mindset. Truist.com/money and mindset. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care, and Truist Bank is a member FDIC, leading based on top 10 U.S. commercial bank. And we're back. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways show and podcast around the country, around the world. If you're in another country, send me an email, info@williejolly.com, info@williejolly.com, so I know where you are. Well, I told you, I'm just going to let Eric loose, because when I'm sitting with him, when we're in a room with all of these people around the table and Eric gets going, I'm taking notes like crazy. I'm copiously taking notes. Eric, what have you learned from the ham honkers or from your experiences walking through life that can help my listeners grow their wealth?
Yeah, so I've been a part of this breakfast group that typically meets Saturday mornings for breakfast. During COVID, we went Zoom for probably 16 years now. Great people in the group. Carl Jones, very successful entrepreneur who we lost about a year ago. Carlos Campbell, same, very successful gentleman. Some of the tidbits I learned from them. So Carl Jones would always say, hey, Eric, trees don't grow to the sky. I've loved NVIDIA stock since 2015, right? I was on the NVIDIA bandwagon way ahead of time. And because of Carl Jones, I trimmed half of my position a couple of years ago. And I just shifted that. I said, I own a small office building in downtown DC, and I paid down a lot of the debt, right, on that office building, and actually did a refi on it to get a better rate, because I was able to pay so much down through. And I thought about it. NVIDIA was going, I think I'd gotten 3-4 splits at that point, and just crazy growth. But I thought about Carl saying trees don't grow to the sky.
And what does that mean? So people don't understand what that means. What does it mean trees don't grow to the sky?
Well, there are only a handful of companies that reach $1 trillion valuation, right? So once you get to 2 trillion or 3 trillion or 4 trillion, it's not like you have that much more to go above that. I believe there'll be a $10 trillion company, but at this point, that would only mean NVIDIA stock doubles from where it is now, or maybe 2.5. They're probably at about a $4.5 trillion valuation. So thinking about, at some point, you have to take things off the table. Carl also told me, right. And by the way, I sat at his table in his estate once, and he had the table of one of the Rothschilds in his house that his wife had purchased from him at Sotheby's.
Right. Oh, let me stop there for a second. Folks, I want to make sure you understand. Trees don't go to the sky means there's a point where you must be willing to sell. And Carl would often quote Rothschild. He'd say,
Yeah.
Right?
They asked him, Nathan Rothschild, how'd you become the wealthiest man in the world? He said, I sold too soon. And that's a lesson I got from Carl. And so a downtown DC office building 50 feet from a metro stop is probably a good shift of resources.
I think probably downtown DC across from a hospital and a metro. I think it's pretty good choice. Okay. What else did you learn from?
Carl said this. He said, once me, Eric, reason and rationale, they don't change things. Events do. And he pointed to, he said, airline safety wasn't changed because of reason and rationale. Airline safety was changed because of 9/11 happened. And then, a lot of gentlemen in the group talk about mindset and discipline and focus on execution, things that I believe in firmly.
Blocking and tackling, as you often say.
I say blocking and tackling because in a football game, the linemen, they have to block every play and the defense players have to tackle. If you're a wide receiver, you may take a play off if somebody's, if you're a decoy and running downfield, you're not blocking, but linemen have to block and tackle. So you're in the trenches and you're doing work and you're grinding it out day by day. And so those are important concepts. And those are all things that we learn. And you talked about, Carl would talk about money. You say money equals land, labor, and management. And he said wealth. I'm sure that's an Adam Smith sort of reference. But Carl said, Eric, always take a bat you can swing.
Woo!
Right. Always take a bat you can swing. And you think about David versus Goliath, right? Yeah. David, they tried to give David someone else's armor. It was too big for him. And David took off and he took a bat. He took the rocks that he knew how to use from his slingshot, right? From being a shepherd boy. He used those. And so always take a bat you can swing. So I think about that. If I go into a fight on something, I try to make sure I'm taking a bat that I can swing.
Wow. Woo, these are so bright and so brilliant. We have this whole chapter in the book about ham hock. One more thing in the book. Now, this is not from one of your points, but you can expand on it just for a moment. The importance of the 3 legs to wealth: income, investment, and insurance. And you have talked openly about importance, gentlemen. You got to do these things. Income, multiple streams. Got to have one stream is not enough. Investment, you got to be disciplined, constant. I think is cost averaging, dollar cost averaging. Yes. And then insurance, protect the asset. Talk about those 3 for a moment.
Yeah, all are important. Income, the way you get higher income is you train your mind. You get education. You get, I tell the young people in my family, you get tickets to go. You can go to a club and there are certain places in the club you have to go behind a VIP line. Question is, do you have a ticket to get into VIP, right? And so your mind, training your mind and getting education and getting the right type of training and skill set is a ticket, right, to get into the VIP line in life. And so invest in your mind, invest in your thinking, but then also routinely invest. If you routinely invest, you're going to do well. And then what was you said?
Insurance.
You said so. Insurance is important because, in particularly when you expire, and particularly in lower income communities, a lot of people have to borrow money to pay for funerals. I can't tell you how, and this is on. I can't tell you how many funerals I've paid for. Because people in my And maybe 50 over the last 30 years.
Wow.
And when you die, it should be a wealth transfer point so in life insurance, a whole life, get a good, there's tricky stuff out there, but do your research, get a good policy. There are all sorts of sophisticated products out there. You can use them to borrow against and things like that. So insurance is good. So income, wealth, and investing, we've talked about that. So investing could be stocks, public equities. It could be private equities, investing in companies. I would urge you to invest in things that you know something about, or that you have, or you tag along with somebody. You do what you call follow smart money, somebody who really knows the space. You're following along them in an investment. There are all sorts of ways to invest, but doing consistent investing is the key thing, no matter what it is, whether it's your because I look at the consistent stock investing I've done over 30 years, and that's worked out well. But then I've consistently invested in companies, and I'd say more than half of the companies I've invested in have failed, right? But of the 7 or 8 that could succeed, I could live off of any one of those.
Wow.
Right. So, but most of them failed. Most of them I lost money on. The ones that have won all are retirement worthy.
Wow. You've taught my son how to invest. You've helped him to invest, and it has helped him tremendously. And you've helped so many others, young people. You have mentees. Okay. Young people, you in DC, and we get together for lunch one day. We go to one of the great universities, and we go into a business class of young wannabe entrepreneurs, successful people. They want to be successful. Give them a couple you got us. Folks, if you want to be successful, here's some things you got to do. You just got to do.
Yeah, these things, if you ever listen to anything I've ever said on any of my other talks, it's 4 things I think are key. Number 1, you got to have a vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yep.
So you actually die without a vision. So your vision, it's in front of you. So keep your vision in front of you. It's something that'll pull you there. Steve Jobs said a vision pulls you to something. Next, you need to have a team. Look at the people you hang around with. You're going to be an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So make sure you pick the right people to spend time with and who are on your team who can go along the journey with you. Not everybody can go along on your journey with you. Doesn't mean you don't love them, but does mean you don't have to spend a lot of time with them.
Right.
Next is, and a critical one is execution. It's great to have, a vision. Good to be on a team, but ultimately you have to execute the plays.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to get up, and you're going to get knocked down. I still get knocked, as successful as I am, I get knocked down all the time now on a routine basis. And I was complaining to a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago, something happened and I got knocked down. And he said, you know what, Eric? He said, guys like you and me, we just get back up.
Amen. That's exactly.
And then the final one is forgiveness. And I know that seems a little out of tort as a moral issue, but forgiveness. And the reason forgiveness is important is because anytime you are holding offense towards a person, a place, or something that happened in the past, it's exactly that. It's looking backwards. And how can you be focused on a great big vision in front of you if you're spending your time and attention on something that happened behind you?
Yes.
And so that's the forgiveness piece. So vision, your team, execution, and forgiveness.
Wow. This is why Eric Broyles is a success. Man, I want to thank you. Thank you so much. I'm encouraging everybody to get the book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better. Read his story. Read his lessons. I just gave you a kind of a thumbnail sketch of it, but it's a great story. And then continue to learn from mentors. You talk about that often too, mentors, and how important it is to have mentors and to learn from them and listen. We've done that with Carl Jones and Duke Green and others. Eric, thank you for being with us, man. This is a masterclass. That's what I always call when you're around, a masterclass. I want to thank Eric. I want to thank Truist. I want to thank Truist for their continued support of the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way show and podcast. When you start with care, you build a different kind of bank, Truist Bank. I want to encourage everybody to get my new book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better, at richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com, richisgoodwealthyisbetter.com, in hardcover, Kindle, digital, or you can get it in audiobook. And then last but not least, join us every Monday night. My bride and I, we do a marriage show on Monday nights at 9:00 Eastern. We do it live on the first Monday nights of the month. And then we place all these great replay or information that we have in our vault on the second, third, and fourth Monday night, so you can get to hear some of these points that were so profound. And then, folks, join us, as I said, Monday night on A Jolley Marriage on Facebook, A Jolley Marriage on Instagram, The Real Willie Jolley on Instagram, and Willie Jolley on LinkedIn Live. And then you can see the replays on the Jolley Marriage Show on YouTube. And last but not least, folks, keep dreaming. Dream big, decide big, and then do big. This is Dr. Willie Jolley on the Willie Jolley Wealthy Way show, and for sure, your best is yet to come. Have a great day. God bless you.
And everybody's right sometimes, some rain's gonna fall. And everybody's hot sometimes, trouble will call. But when trouble stops by, you can sit there and cry.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode, and I hope you got something of great value. And I hope that you were inspired, you were motivated, you were empowered, and you were encouraged to live your best life. I hope this information and this inspiration will help you to do more, be more, and to achieve more. That's the goal why I started this program, and I hope it helped you in a mighty way. Now, I ask you to make sure and that you take full advantage of all the resources that came through this program. I hope you go to wjspeaks.com/gift and get some of the free resources that we have there for you. I hope you go to wjspeaks.com/shop to get some of the books that we have created, that we've labored over to make sure that they will deliver a powerful message to you. I hope you go to williejolly.com/billionaire, williejolly.com/billionaire, or wjspeaks.com/billionaire to get the box that it will inspire your whole family, or get the bag of books. Make this a great day, a great week, a great month. And remember, it is true that you are blessed and all things are possible for them that believe. So make the most of the belief that you have now in your future. This is Dr. Willie Jolley. Have a great day.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.